Okay guys, we're live. Welcome back to another Fish the Moment live stream. This is the second live stream I'm doing, and I think the first one went really well. Thank you all for joining last time and kind of helping me test out this idea. I think I got a lot of really good interaction from you guys in the comments and a lot of good feedback, and I learned a lot as well. If you guys could also let me know if the mic and everything is working in the chat, that'd be awesome. Just to make sure we're picking me up. If you can see the screen and all that, really appreciate it. So today we're going to be looking at more subscribers' lakes. I have 4 lakes picked out. Let's see, we're looking at Barren River Lake in Kentucky, Lake Somerville in Texas, Lake Chickamauga in Tennessee, and Lake Monticello in South Carolina. So I've checked out all these lakes just a little bit, and they all look really good. So I'm excited to take a look at those. Before we get into that, though, I just want to go through, I guess, some like housekeeping stuff. First off, for this stream, I'm going to be posting it on my channel right afterwards on YouTube, so you can watch it back if you want to, review what I'm talking about on all the lake maps, or if you want to share it with friends, things like that. Also, I'm going to be going over how to read topo maps for the first like 10 or 15 minutes of the stream. I had a lot of questions after the last stream of how to actually read contour maps and contour lines, and so I'm going to check that out with you guys and just kind of walk through it for maybe 10 minutes. And so it might be a review for a lot of you guys, but I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page before we start diving in to the main content. So let's get into that then, and that'll give people time to kind of get going. I see BG Fishing, what lakes are in this video? I just went through it, but it's Barren River Lake in Kentucky, Lake Somerville in Texas, Lake Chickamauga in Tennessee, and Lake Monticello in South Carolina. So let's go just through some basics of topo maps real quick with you guys, just so you can get an idea of how that works, because we'll be talking about it a lot on the stream. So here's a topo map from the Navionics web app. And so the Navionics web app is a free app online. You can follow along. You actually see right below where it says Johnny Schultz Fish the Moment. There's the URL. It's webapp.navionics.com. And you can go and actually type in that address and follow along on all the lakes I'm fishing, or not fishing, but looking at today on the stream. And so here's the topo map. And let me just pull it up and zoom in here for you guys and kind of show you what a topo map is. And I'll just walk you through how to read these for a few minutes. So basically what a topo map is it gives you contour lines that tell you how deep the water is. And so you can see exactly how deep the water is on your home lake. So right here, I'm on Lake Washita, and this lake has a ton of contour lines, so that's why I'm using it. And if you look right here, this is a little hump. And I can tell it's a hump because if you look at these lines on the map right here, you can see this line says 33. And 33 is the depth of water that part of the lake is. So it's 33 feet of water right here. Contour line next to it is 34 feet, so it's 34 feet of water. And it goes all the way out, and you can see there's 40 feet, 58 feet. That's how deep the water is. And it might be a little bit hard to see those lines, so I actually got a little graphic for you here that I made up. This is in one of my videos. It's called How to Use Creek Channels to Fish or Find Fish Year-Round. Topo Maps Explained. And so check that video out. It's on my channel if you want to know how to kind of look at topo maps and how to use them to find fish year-round. But here you go. You can see in the center there's 42 feet, and you can see the little contour lines there, say 41, 42 feet, and they go up to 10 feet, and you can see the contour lines that say 10 foot. So if you think about it, I'm 6 feet tall, and so right where it says 10 foot, it's 10 feet of water. So it's just a little bit over my head. And then if you go just to the right into this 42 feet of water, it drops from 10 feet to 42 feet in probably 30 yards. And so that's a really sharp drop. And you can tell it's a sharp drop because if you look at those contour lines, they're really close together. They're stacked up right next to each other on the topo map. And so whenever you see the topographic lines really close together, that means it's a sharp drop, or it goes from shallow to deep water really quick. And then if you don't see a lot of contour lines, like the area right underneath 10 and 18, you can see there's barely any lines. It's just solid blue. That means that there's no depth change. It's the same depth of water all over. And so let's go through one example of this just real quick to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like in real life. So here is Lake Washita, and it's that same spot I was just looking at. And if you look on this map right here, you can see that there's this little island and it's just sticking out of the water. And I actually drew this lake down using a feature in Google Earth. If you go to Google Earth, you can go up to the top of the screen, and you can download Google Earth for free online. And you can go to this little clock, and it has an arrow going to the left, and it says show historical imagery. Use the time slider to move between dates. And so you can actually roll back time. And so if you look right there, boom, that little hump disappeared. This image from 2006, that hump isn't there. If I go back to 2017 in March, that hump is there. And so you can see that that's normally an underwater hump. Because Lake Ouachita gets drawn down, now you can see that little island. So let's go back over to the, oh, I'm not showing the screen. I did that last time. I don't know if you guys caught that. Let me go back and do that one more time. Sorry about that. So, gotta say, here's the little hump here, and right here is that little island. And I was scrolling back time. This is what I was talking about earlier. But you can scroll back time. So let's go back to 2016. That hump disappeared. That's when the lake was higher. And then you scroll forward, and the lake is now drawn down. It's March. They draw down Lake Ouachita in the winter, and you can see that little island. So if we look on that on Navionics, come over here to Navionics, you can see that this little hump is right here. It's this little hump right here. And normally, this is underwater. It's in 25 feet of water, but Lake Ouachita was super down last year, and so because it was so low, this hump was way out of the, or was just out of the water. And so you can see right here it says 25 feet of water on that contour line, but the lake was 25. I don't think it was actually 25 feet low. It was probably like 10 feet low. I don't know if this contour line map is just a little bit off or whatever. But anyways, right here, that's that contour line, 25 feet of water, and then you can see all these other lines right next to it, really tight. This is all deeper water. So it goes from 25 feet to 35 feet to 56 feet really fast. And so that's how you read a contour line map. And so hopefully that's helpful. I'm also planning on doing a full video on this so you guys can get an idea of how topo maps work and how to find ledges, humps, creek channels, ditches, things like that. So if this didn't make sense, or you want maybe a refresher course on how to read topo maps, I'll be putting a video on my channel hopefully in the next week that explains all that. So now that we're done with all that, I'm just going to check to see right here if there's any comments going through. Let's see here. Elite Bass Stick, thank you. Strong support here. I always appreciate it. He always is one of the first people to comment, so I really appreciate that. Let's see here. Lots of interaction already. I'm liking that a lot, guys. Ryan, good to see you in here. He's always working both Ryans here. BG Fishing, glad you're liking Chickamauga. And then, let's see here. Thanks for the topo. No problem, Ryan. Let's go. Okay, cool. I think we're good. So now that we have 35 people on, which is great for the first like 8 minutes of the stream, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going through some of the subscribers' lakes. So first up, we have Barren River Lake. So let's pull that up. So I'm going to pull this up. And we're going to go over here. Okay, so Barren River Lake. This is a lake in Kentucky, and it was submitted by John Bolton. And John was great on the last stream, giving a lot of good commentary and asking a lot of good questions. So I don't know if John's on tonight, but hopefully he'll be able to see this if he's not. Mario, I just saw that. I saw your email too. When are you going to be doing Henry Hag? What I'm actually doing, after the last live stream, I got about 25 or 30 emails of lake requests, and just because of the time that I want to give to each lake, I want to give each lake like 15, 20 minutes of my time. I can't do more than 4 lakes per stream, and so what I'm going to be doing is hopefully doing like a live stream every week, maybe 2 a week some weeks, for the rest of the year. And so I'm going to be knocking off as many lakes as I can. I have them all in my email sorted by date. Now I'm just going to go up the list by the order I receive them, and hopefully I can get through all of your lakes over the course of the year, and I'll also adjust them. Even though you set like different water temperatures, I'll just kind of adjust the water temperature to what I think it's going to be, so don't worry about that. And also keep sending in lake suggestions, because I have 25 or 30 lakes, but that's not going to last long if I'm doing these every single week. So keep sending them in. If more people want to, or if you're new to the stream, please send me your lakes to fishthemoment1@gmail.com. There's instructions on how to get your lake looked at in the bottom right corner of the screen here. So here you go, John Bolton's lake, Barren River Lake. This lake looks awesome. So first things first, when I look at a new lake, I like to look at the Google Earth images. It's the easiest way to tell the water clarity, what type of cover there is on the shoreline, if there's docks, if it looks like a river system, or if it's a big open reservoir, things like that. And one thing that struck me right away about Barren River Lake is that it looks a lot like Beaver Lake in northwest Arkansas. And if you guys ever watch the Forest Wood, or the FLW series, or the Forest Wood Cups, they fish Beaver Lake every single year on the FLW tour. And this lake sets up almost identical to it. So if you've ever seen any of those shows, maybe you can kind of get images in your head of maybe what that looks like. And so one thing that I like to do on Beaver Lake, especially in the wintertime, is I like to fish rock with a crankbait and a jerkbait. And so what I did first off, and I was just kind of taking a peek at this lake, is I wanted to look for areas that were really rocky. And so first place I went into is I actually scrolled into this little marina here. And I was just trying to find places that had a little bit of rock on them and a little bit of good cover. And first thing I noticed right here on this marina is that there's a little like house foundation, and the lake looks like it's drawn down a little bit in this picture, but there's a little bit of a house foundation. And if this lake was up to normal pool, like all the way up here, right here, there's looks like there's somewhat of like a house foundation. There's some rocky concrete down there, and it's just offshore, and that looks like a great place for these fish to set up on a warm day in like December and January. Looks like there's some deeper water kind of off in front of these docks. We can check that with Navionics in a second. But that looks like a great spot. When the sun comes up, it's going to heat up those rock concrete areas like that, and the fish are just going to get drawn to them, even up in like 2 and 3 feet of water. That's the kind of a misconception about winter fishing, is that the fish always get shallow in the winter, or always get deep in the winter, and they get like off into the creek channels and they sit way offshore. But from my experience, if you watch any of my videos over the past, year and a half, when I'm fishing in the winter, every single video I catch my fish within a cast and a half of the shore. I'm hardly ever catching fish way offshore in the wintertime. And so don't be afraid to get up pretty shallow in the winter, especially on sunny days, because the fish can definitely sit up there. So let's see here. We got Ryan said he's got the image of beaver in his head. That's maybe not the best thing. Beaver Lake is definitely a frustrating lake. Table Rock too. Chris is saying Table Rock. It does look a lot like Table Rock too. So if we go right here, we can see this is a nice little like marina area with some good riprap, more rock, and again, another little like rocky stretch right by this boat ramp. And the reason I'm calling all this rock is because if you actually look down this lake, there's not very much rock. This is all mud bank. As far as you can see, basically, there's really not much rock on this whole lake. And whenever you're fishing a lake that's mainly mud bottom, or like sand, gravel, or like a sand or mud bottom, you want to find those hard bottom areas, and especially in the wintertime, because they draw heat and they're going to draw bass and crawdads and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of keep scrolling up and down this bank and look for rocky areas. So like right here, this is a really nice rocky, kind of almost looks like a bluffy bank right leading into the spawning pocket. And this looks like a great place to catch fish in the pre-spawn in the winter, because what will happen is these fish will sit right on this main river channel out here, and then they're going to move up onto this rocky point that's leading into the spawning pocket and stage to move up into to these pockets to spawn. These fish are probably going to spawn down these banks and these pockets, and so they want to be close to the spawning areas in the wintertime, but they don't want to be up in the creeks. They want to be close to the deeper water. So this little rocky bank right by the creek channel, but close to spawning pockets, is a great spot. And as far as baits I would fish here, I actually got an order of a couple baits in today, and I just pulled this out of my box, but it's actually a Strike King KVD 1.5 flat. You guys have probably seen me throw this in pretty much every video I fished last year. And it's just a little flat side crankbait. I have a bunch of videos on my channel about it, so you can just go check that out. But crawdad color flat side crankbaits are really good. Anything with like a red body or whatever, Another great bait is a storm wigglewort. I catch a ton of fish on a storm wigglewort. That's a really good bait in the Ozarks. That's like a table rock special right there. Hopefully this is going to be a a good pattern on this lake as well in Kentucky. I think the fish probably set up pretty similar on this lake just because it looks really similar to the Ozark lakes. Daniel, good to see you in here. Daniel Sparlin, fished on the Arkansas bass fishing team with me. Great guy. He's got some really cool drone footage on his YouTube channel too, so check that out. Anyways, let's keep going back up this lake. There was a couple other spots I really liked up the river here a little bit. So let's go up the river. So what you can kind of see is you kind of see on this lake that this section right here, this is the dam, and this section's pretty clear water, and then it's pretty clear all the way in this midsection, maybe like 2 to 5 feet visibility, and then it gets really muddy up the rivers. And same thing on this end of the lake. It's really kind of clear through here, and then it gets muddy up in the creeks. And whenever I'm fishing these type of lakes like Beaver Lake, Table Rock, I like to fish in the midsection of the lake. So these areas right around here, because it has a really nice, good mix of having that kind of dirty water that warms up quick with the sun, and it's also not so clear that the fish won't bite like a crankbait or a reaction bait. A lot of times in that clear water you have to trick them with like a swim bait on a jig head. Sometimes on a jerk bait works if there's wind, but I think it's easier to catch fish in that slightly stained water in the midsection of the lake. So either way, let's move up to these little pockets here that I was looking at, and there's 3 little fingers here that look really good. They look like a spot I fish actually on beaver a lot. And if you look at them, this is a big north-facing pocket. And fish love to spawn on Beaver Lake on pockets that run north to south. For whatever reason, I just have a lot of good luck catching big bass and like a lot of bass in these north to south pockets on beaver. And especially these short little pockets. These short little pockets will have like driftwood that blow up into them, and bass just love to spawn in these pockets. And so if we look at the points in front of these pockets, again, it has a really nice like slate rock point, and the rock starts right here, and then it ends like right when you pull into this pocket. So this is all mud, and this is all mud, but then there's a nice chunk slate rock right here, and I think that the fish are going to stack up on that little difference. It transitions from mud to rock right on a point. The creek channel swings in right on these points. We can check that for sure with Navionics, but another great spot. Here's another little spot here, a little rock transition like I talked about in that video from Lake Hamilton a couple weeks ago. Nice chunk rock transitions to like some gravel, pebble, and then mud. So another great little spot. So there's a lot of good looking water, and so what I would do then if I was looking at this lake and I was preparing for a tournament, I would go and find these like rocky areas on the bank, and then I would go over to Navionics, and I would make sure that they're close to deep water. So I'm going to check this little stretch of the river right here and this little stretch of the river right here, because those are the 2 areas that I think look the best. And it could probably take me 4 or 5 hours just to cover those stretches of bank, especially with this KVD 1.5 flat. I crank it super slow in the wintertime, like barely turn my handle. So I'm not fishing fast, so I don't need to have a ton of water when I go to a lake in the winter. I just need to have some good spots. So let's actually look at some comments, then we'll go back over. Okay, so ton of comments. This is great. Johnny needs to be a pro coach. Are they even in existence? I don't know. That would be interesting. Like kind of like a tennis coach. I don't know how well that I get paid to do that, but it could be a future career. If you know anybody who's looking, just let me know. Let's see here. Just going to read through these really quick. Scott Martin won a tour event fishing pockets like that. Yep, that he definitely did. Those are really good. I think there's another. It was Scott Canterbury or maybe one of those other guys. They won a tournament on Beaver. Maybe finished Scott Canterbury finished second. Or I think he either won or finished second fishing Beaver a couple years ago doing that. YOLO Tech. Hey man, never seen anyone do this format before. Best live stream we've seen for a while. Thank you. If you guys don't know YOLO Tech, check them out. I use the boom. That's how I get all my good camera footage in the back of the boat for my videos. So check out their stuff. It's pretty good. Let's Let's see here. We need Bassmaster. Who needs Bassmaster when we have Mr. Schultz to teach us? Awesome. Thanks for all the great comments, the kind words, guys. It really is great to hear that. Make sure I'm doing the right thing and doing stuff that you guys enjoy. Because really, I just love doing this. This is, what I do with my friends that I fish with. We just talk about lake maps and Google Earth and stuff like this all the time for hours. We'll just pull it up on like a TV back in college and just like sit for 2 or 3 hours and look through all these lakes and be like, oh, that'd be a great spot. Especially when we're procrastinating studying for exams is a great way to procrastinate. So let's pull up Navionics now and take a look at this lake. Okay. Navionics here. We're still on Washita. So let me pull up Barren River Lake. So Barren River Lake, again, this is in Kentucky. Kevin said, I don't see the super chat icon below the chat feed. Are you missing something? Let's see here. I might be missing something. Let me see if it should be down there. I don't know if you guys are, I can't really see what you guys are seeing on your side. It's a little like dollar sign in a gray box. Down at the bottom, it looks just like it is in the stream, but I see it on my end. I don't know what you guys are seeing on your end though. So I know that there's a few guys maybe in here that did it last time. So let's if we can figure that out in the comments, that'd be great. Just help support the channel. If not, then I'll have to figure out for the next live stream, and maybe you can catch me there. But hopefully we can get that fixed. But anyways, Barren River Lake, and in Kentucky. So let's go check out those couple areas that I was looking at. So let's go to this creek first. This is the first spot I remember. And boom, this looks textbook. This looks really good. I actually didn't look at this on Navionics at all until I just pulled this up. So one thing I really like about this is you can see, let's just kind of walk through with the contour lines again. So if you look right here, this contour line, 27 feet of water, 27 feet of water. And then all of a sudden it drops off really fast down to 49 feet. So 49 feet, 27, then it's up to the bank right here, so it's really shallow, obviously. So this little stretch of deep water, that's called a creek channel. And this is actually a main river channel. And so this main river channel, you can actually see the little dotted lines on the screen too there. That indicates a main river channel. And so it swings around here, and it's kind of hugging this bank. And this main river channel runs right over the mouth of these three pockets. And the reason I like that so much is that these fish in the wintertime, they want to be by that main river channel. There's deep water, bait likes to congregate offshore in that creek channel, but it's also, running right across the mouth of these three pockets. And so this point right here is actually super steep. It's like 40 feet probably within a casting distance to the bank. And so this is a great spot, I think, for a jerkbait. I would throw like a Lucky Craft pointer or maybe like a deep diving KVD jerkbait, something like that. And I would, depending on the water clarity, throw it in like a chartreuse shad color, something along those lines. Let's see here. It looks like it works. The Mario said it works for me, so I'm glad. So it's... I'm back out and come back. Okay, thanks for helping me out with that, guys. Appreciate that. But anyways, so this little creek this river channel runs across the mouth of these pockets, and so these fish are going to winter right off in front of these pockets, off these points right by the river channel. And then once it's time for them to spawn, it's super easy for them to move up from this river channel straight into these pockets. And so if we get a warm front that gets like 3 or 4 days of 70 or 80 degree weather, then these fish are going to be able to quickly move up shallow, start spawning, then move right back off in the channel. And so I would say that these pockets right here are just going to be textbook for catching winter bass. Fish these points, maybe you work your way into these pockets, maybe about a third of the way, throwing an Alabama rig. That's a really good way to catch them out on Beaver Lake. You could also throw a football jig, like a half-ounce football jig, and just crawl it down the point, sit in like 50 feet of water, cast all the way up to the bank, like literally onto the bank, and drag it off. Depending on how sunny and how warm it is that day, fish might sit all the way up on top of the point and sit like in the rocks right on the shore, but they could also be sitting way off the point down like 30 feet of water. So just work that bait all the way back to the boat, and you're going to be catching fish. So great spot right there. Here's that rock transition. Let me pull up Google Earth again. So Google Earth was here. So if you look right here, this is that rock transition I was showing. And whenever you're looking for a rock transition, this is that transition right here. It goes from bunch of chunk rock, slate rock, and then it transitions into like these pebbles and then goes off to the sand. And so if you look at this right here, that's a great little rock transition, and those are places they set up really well in like November, December, and then also they'll move back to them in like February, March. And so if you go over to Navionics again and you look at the same bank, you can actually see that this creek channel swings in right up against that little rock transition right there, and then it curves off. And you can see it goes from deep, the contour lines are super close together, then they start to spread out. So that means it's shallowing up. The lake is going from super sharp drop to a little bit more subtle drop, and this is almost like a flat over here. The contour lines are really spread out. And so that little rock transition is a great spot. Whenever you see these contour lines hug up against the bank and then pull away and that line starts to get kind of more spread out, that's a great pre-spawn spot. And those are spots that you want to definitely check out, especially in like February, March, but also in December. They can start pulling up on these as well. That's a little creek channel swing is what they call it. John, thanks again for the donation. John's got the super chat working. Ryan just said, can y'all imagine Johnny in a kayak? I can't. Last time I went kayak fishing, I flipped the kayak and lost like all the lures like rose to the bottom of the boat, which is weird, but I lost like a pole. Not a good idea, but I know a lot of people love it and it's fun. I just like my bass boat. Let's see here. Let's keep going back up and check a couple more comments. KVD's got nothing on you, man. I don't know. KVD is pretty good. I watch all your shows and definitely increases my bass in the boat ratio, learning from you. Thank you, Clifford. Really appreciate that. Those guys, I gotta respect the guys on tour though. I film a lot of my shows on weekdays or like on weekends when there's not a lot of tournaments out there. Those guys are fishing after 4 days of practice. There's spectator boats following them around. I mean, that's just completely different from what I'm doing. But hopefully what I'm doing can help you guys. You're just, the weekend warriors, figure out how to catch some fish. But John, good to see you again. Chris, he said he liked that creek channel swing on the left. I like this right here, right? This is what he's talking about. This looks really good too. Yeah, Chris Hunt. This creek channel swing looks great. If you look what he's talking about, it's the same thing we just talked about on that other bank. This creek channel is running up. Remember, it's really deep right here. And then it swings away, and this little spot right here is shallower. Those creek channel lines are more spread out. And right here is actually a point. You can see that those contour lines kind of come to a V or like a triangle, and that means that that's a point. And that creek channel right here, you can see a secondary creek channel. If you look at those dotted lines right there and there, that means a secondary creek channel is running into this pocket. And so this creek channel runs here. This is the main river channel. This is the creek channel, and it runs right up against this point. That's going to be a dynamite spot. So if you're watching, John, I would definitely check out this little point right here, this point, and that rock transition we're talking about. So this is a great little area. I think, John, you could probably spend, a whole like 2 hours just fishing those points, just fishing them slow with a bunch of different baits, trying to see what's happening, because I think that's going to be, just that little stretch of bank right in here is going to be definitely good winter fishing for you. Let's run down then over to that marina again and kind of see what that was looking like on Navionics 2. So here's that marina, and actually here's that little house foundation that we were talking about. So if we go back, let me go back over to our Google Earth so we can remember what we were talking about. Again, this is Barren River Lake in Kentucky, and I was saying it looks a lot like Table Rock, like Beaver Lake, so just for people who are kind of joining in late. But right here, we could see when we zoomed in and we saw the lake was down, we could see a little house foundation or like a little structure underwater, like a cement structure, and that's going to be really good for holding heat and for winter bass. So if we go back over to Navionics now, we can actually see that it's showing that little house foundation. Not exactly where it was supposed to be, but pretty close to that point. And it's not super deep here, but if you look, this creek channel runs right underneath these boat slips, and that creek channel is really close. This is the main river channel, actually. So this is the main river channel. You can look at it right there. That main river channel runs really close to this point, and these fish, especially largemouth, will move up onto these shallower points if it gets sunny. If you get like a 50 or 60 degree day, even in January, they'll move up onto these points, and you can catch them on a big spinnerbait like Jason Christie was at Grand Lake in 2016. He was throwing a 1 ounce spinnerbait, or like a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, up in like 2 feet of water and fishing it super slow, catching fish in March on Grand Lake. You can do that. You can also throw this KVD 1.5 flat. You can throw a square bill, things like that, fish a jig. So that's a really good looking spot right there. It also is in the mouth of the spawning pocket, so great spot. And then again, there's where that riprap was, if you guys remember that. Riprap was right here, and that creek channel runs right around the riprap. And you know how much I love riprap and throwing a crankbait on riprap on Lake Dardanelle. So definitely check that out, John. And I think you're going to find a lot of big fish on Barren River Lake. So let me go through the comments, and then we're going to get to the next subscriber lake. Okay, Ryan R. just did a super chat, $10. Thanks for taking the time, Johnny. Much appreciated on the knowledge. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for all the comments already in the stream and all the help doing that. Really appreciate all that. Topwater Bassman. You ever come to North Carolina? I've been to South Carolina, and I'm actually doing Lake Monticello, which I actually fished in like 2010, but never been to North Carolina. Love to get out there though and fish. I fly over there sometimes, like over all the lakes in the area, and it just looks money. So, Halo, I owe you $2 next time. Appreciate that. Thank you. I'm getting some requests from Bucketmouth Bass. Bucketmouth Bass, just send that lake with the information in the bottom right of the screen here to that email, fishthemoment1@gmail.com, with the state, county, water clarity, water temperature, and make sure it has a Navionics map. And I'm going to be sending that, or I'll be looking at emails and compiling those in a list, and hopefully looking at all y'all's lakes. So keep sending in the requests. Let's see here. Realistic Fishing, happy to catch some of the stream. Happy you're here. Chris Hunt, what about a Ned rig? Ned rig would also be a great option, especially if it's super cold. I'm actually have a video I'm editing right now for you guys, and it's how to use your electronics to find bass. I have Navionics images. I have like 6 different images from my graph, all the different views. I tell you how I set up my graphs, how I actually drive the boat over the structure. It's like a 20-minute video. It's been taking me like forever to edit, so it might take a few more days for me to get it out, but I think it's a good video, and hopefully it'll help you guys figure out how to find fish, how to find different types of cover, things like that using your electronics. And at the end of the video, I actually throw a little Ned rig. It was 23 degrees outside here in Arkansas, frozen. Like the fish were not biting. And I just threw that Ned rig down the bluff wall, caught a couple spots. So that's a really good suggestion. Buckemouth Bass, love your vids. Thank you, appreciate it. Let's see here. We have everyone saying hi to Realistic Fishing. What's up, man? Tellico Lake. I actually think I got a request for that already, but send that to me, BA Fishing, to my email account. And then let's see here. Email account, Buckemouth Bass. What's the email address? It's already in the bottom right. It's in the bottom right-hand corner right below. It says social media. You see the Facebook, and it's you see Fish the Moment. It's in the bottom right corner, and there's want me to look at your lake. So it's right there in the bottom corner. So just check that out. So let's now take a look at the next subscriber's lake. Next subscriber was South Texas Bassing, and it might be Will Emmert. I don't know if it's the same person, but I had 2 requests for Lake Somerville, one from South Texas Bassing, one from Will Emmert. So it might be the same person, it might be different. But either way, we're heading to Texas. Okay, so let's pull up Google Earth here. Let's pull up Lake Somerville. Ride Red, thank you for the $5 donation. He said, great info. Thank you for the work you put in to put this together. Thanks a lot. I try to put as much effort as I can as time allows. Like, again, I talk about in school right now, in grad school, just working part-time, doing a full-time MBA program, and so I barely have any time between the studying and work to get these videos out. So during the school year, it's really tough for me to make content, but hopefully these live streams will be a little bit easier for me to do, and I can still interact with you guys. So you'll probably be seeing a lot more live streams from me during the semester from like January through May, as opposed to actual videos, but I'm also going to try to post like 1 or 2 videos a month, just so I can cover the big topics I want to talk about, like some pre-spawn stuff I love to fish, maybe do some sight fishing stuff, things like that. So hopefully I can get out and make some videos there. But see, what line am I fishing with? Okay, so fishing line. For the years, I was sponsored by Stren Fishing Line since I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I worked with until college, and then I actually took a break from fishing to focus on college and parted ways with the company. And so I just started having to buy some new line, and so I've been testing out some other stuff. And a few of the things I've been testing out is the Seagar and Vizex, and I've also been testing out the FC Sniper Sunline. And both are really good. I love both the lines. I can literally like pull up brush piles with them. I've straightening the hooks on my football jigs. Both are super strong lines. They're both fluorocarbon lines. They are a little bit expensive. They're pretty pricey, which is hurting the bank. That donation from Clifford Zuber for $20 is definitely going to help. That can get me a full line of that in Vizex. Clifford said, "Thank you for your time and your knowledge. Keep up the great job. You ever try or use the Excalibur XR50 rattle traps?" Yes, I loved those rattle traps. They got rid of the company, like went away, right? The Excalibur went away. Those are really good on Washita. We catch them in like the Raven red color. I like that a lot. I throw the red eye shad too. But yeah, that Excalibur rattle traps those were so good. I'm kind of bummed that they went away. Ryan said this dude is in school and still doing this. Kid has no excuse. Thanks, Ryan. Anyways, bucket mouth. Let me know too, guys, if I'm talking about the lakes. I'm trying to get to questions. I'm trying to figure out like the interaction and talking about the lakes, and I don't want to get too sidetracked either way. So hopefully I'm doing it okay. Let me know though in the comments or in the chat or like in the comments after the video if you think I'm too scattered, if I should just focus on one like the lake thing for 10 minutes then look at chat, or if I should be looking at it throughout. So anyways, let's see here. What was Bucket Mouth saying? He was saying struggling to find fish right now in the lake. I don't know if they're schooled up or somewhere or what. What are your suggestions? The water temp is usually 50 to 62. So one thing I would say, if it's 50 to 62, I would get on the bank and throw a flat side crankbait or a jerkbait, and I would fish shallow, or maybe like a jig. And I would fish pretty shallow. If the water temps are above 50 degrees, the fish will stay shallow and bite a crankbait, especially if it's sunny and windy. A rattle trap is really good up shallow too. You can check out my rattle trap video where I'm catching fish on Lake Hamilton when it's 30 degrees outside in 2 feet of water on the rattle trap. And so what I've found in the wintertime, if the water's above 50 degrees, there's fish shallow. So the trick with that though is you might cover a ton of water. You might fish for a mile and a half and not get bit, and then you'll get bit on one tiny little spot and you'll catch 3 or 4 fish in one area. So what I like to do in the wintertime, especially when I know I'm going to be fishing shallow, is I take a crankbait or like a jig and I fish really quick. I fish around pretty much any good looking water I can find. I'm showing all the spots that I kind of would fish today, but I would just cover all the spots I'm talking about on the stream pretty quick with a crankbait or a jerkbait, working it pretty quick, and just fish as much water as I can throughout the day. And most of the time that helps me find those small groups of fish. And when I catch one fish, I normally catch 3 or 4 up shallow. So hopefully that'll help. Whenever I'm struggling to find fish in the winter, I abandon the offshore stuff and I just fish up shallow all day. Let's see here. Let's keep going here. Okay, so you guys are talking about the Excalibur. Good. So let me, I'm going to take a break for the comments now for just 5 or 6 minutes. I'm going to get over to Lake Somerville here. So let's pull this up. So Lake Somerville. This is from Will Emmerich again, South Texas Basin. I'm not sure if they're the same or not. But this lake is just outside of Houston, Texas, and it looks money. When Will sent me an email, he said he was kind of struggling. He has a tournament coming up here. And the lake is pretty shallow, kind of featureless. And I get what he means. There's definitely a lot of lakes in Arkansas that are like that. They're very shallow and they don't have a lot going on. And so what I'm going to show Will right here is some stuff on Google Earth. There's actually a Navionics for this lake too, but I found a ton of good stuff that's shallow but off the bank that looks really good on Lake Somerville, and I found it just using Google Earth. So what I did is I went over here to right here. So I went up to this top corner in Google Earth, and you click this little clock button. If you click this clock button, it'll take you to the most recent image of Lake Somerville. So if you look at Lake Somerville here, I mean, there's like trees and grass. There's all kinds of beautiful cover out here. I think these are like little bushes. I don't really know. There's a lot of great cover in the water. And so it looks like, fisherman's paradise. You can just go in and just, flip fish shallow with a crankbait, spinnerbait, things like that. But thing is that it's kind of hard to cover all that water. When you have so much cover, in a lake, it's kind of hard to figure out where to fish. You might deal with that on your home lake where you have like lily pads everywhere, or there's bank grass everywhere, or hydrilla everywhere, and you don't know where to focus your attention. So what I like to do is I want to look for offshore structure or offshore stuff that kind of is near this shallow water cover that kind of makes it different from what else is around it. So, for example, if I'm fishing around lily pads and there's lily pads all over the lake, I want to find maybe lily pads that have a little bit deeper water by them. Or maybe if I'm fishing on a lake that has scattered hydrilla, and there's hydrilla clumps every 10 or 15 feet, maybe I want to find a place that has the thickest hydrilla, or where there's a creek channel that runs right up against the hydrilla. Those are the kind of places that are going to be really key to finding fish when there's a ton of cover and the lake is all one depth. Let's see here. Ryan just said Johnny could kill a commentary on all the major professional fishing tours if he did color than that. I would watch easily. Thank you. Bucket mouth, no problem on the donation. I completely understand about being in college. No, no pressure on anyone to donate or anything. Still 36 people, so we're doing well. We're getting people in. So either way, so Lake Somerville. So what I was talking about. So you can go up to this little clock button. So if you click this clock button and up at the top, you can actually scroll back and look at the lake over different times. This is aerial footage that Google has saved over the years. And so I'm going to scroll back to 2010 or 2011, I think. 2011. So right here. So this is some footage from 2011 or 2012, I guess 2012. Either way, right here. And if you look, this lake is actually drawn down a ton. And so you can actually see a lot of really good offshore structure without even looking at Navionics. You can just look on for free on this app. So there's a couple places I actually found that I think Will is going to enjoy fishing for his tournament. So let's go check those out real quick. So first off, when the lake's not flooded, you can't see any of these like islands. This is a nice little like sand flat or a sand hump that if you guys fish for smallmouth up north, you know those are really good. This is a largemouth lake, so maybe not the best, but in the summer, those fish will get in these sandbar drops, maybe on the backside of this island, and fish will set up there. But one spot I really liked for Will is if you look right here, there's a nice little creek channel you can see that runs in right into this little pocket. And you can't actually even see this on Navionics. It's not even there. And if you look at this creek channel, what I would do is, I would take a mark. And you can go up to the little top here on Google Earth. You can click the Add Place Mark. And I would just move that right here. And if you look on when you make these pins, I can't actually show it here right now. But if you look at these pins, it says latitude and longitude. It gives you latitude and longitude, and you can actually put that into your GPS. And so you can actually just take this pin and put it right in your GPS. But then if I zoom out and I turn the lake back to 2016, boom, right there. That creek channel disappears, but you can see where it was using the pin. So that pin now marks where that creek channel was. And you could never tell it was there if you didn't use Google Earth. And if we pull up Navionics real quick on this lake, I'm going to pull this up and show you guys where this is, Lake Somerville. This is the area that we're talking about right here. And you can't actually even see that creek channel. You would think that they would show like lines getting deeper in here, but it actually just shows it's almost getting shallower up where that creek channel is supposed to be. And so Navionics just has it wrong. And so no one probably knows about this little creek channel if they're only looking at Navionics. So this could be a great little spot for Will that he's going to have away from other people. Oh, I lost my layout though. Let me pull that back up. Let me get that back going. You guys hopefully could still see me. But let's get Navionics out here and go back to Google Earth. So let's go back down to 2010. So there's that little creek. So that's a great spot for Will. Also like this little island. If you look, this creek channel kind of swings up close to the point of this island. And I would fish out here with like a Carolina rig. I'd fish this little ditch with a chatterbait or a lipless crankbait. I think that would be really good. Let me go up and go back up here and answer some questions. I'm getting a ton in. Let's see here. Okay. Um, BG Fishing says you could easily take Travis Moran's spot in FLW. Appreciate that. Can you explain the difference between structure and cover? Yes, Chris. Good question. Sometimes I get carried away. I just completely sometimes get caught up in what I'm talking about and I forget to explain stuff. So I'm going to try to keep looking at the comments to make sure I catch everything. But structure. Structure is anything that's made by the contours of the lake. So like this creek channel right here. There's an actual like creek that ran through this lake before it was flooded. The contour lines change. There's a change in the depth. So if you think about like in a ditch in the road, you're driving down the highway and there's like a little ditch, a drainage ditch, that's structure. Where you have the drainage ditch in the middle of the road, there's a change in elevation in the bottom. It goes from, 10 feet down to 20 feet. And so anytime you have like a point, the point sticks out in the middle of the lake and it's like creates a high spot, a hump, that's structure. Cover is anything that's on top of the bottom. So that's like lily pads, brush piles, bushes, hydrilla, that's cover. So cover is stuff that's on top of the bottom, and then structure is the actual contours of the bottom itself. So you can see structure by using a topographic map because it shows the contour lines. It shows how the bottom changes. You can't see cover on a topographic map. You can only see cover using things like Google Earth, where we can actually see like, oh, there's some bushes or maybe there's some grass over here. So hopefully that helps. Ryan, look at that creek channel. I know this is a great little creek channel. I love this. Matthew, thanks for explaining that as well. You just did the exact same thing I said, way more concise and better than I did, so thank you. I still have on the topographic map. I keep doing this. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Anyways, here's a nice little creek channel here. Can't see the map. I'm getting texts from my friends too. Thanks, Sam. Anyways, here we go. So this is that creek channel again. So this is the creek channel. You can see this is the structure, and then the cover is like these bushes. Yeah. Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Sam. So I have this like software that I have to use that does that switches between, and sometimes I don't switch the screens properly. So just keep spam in the comments to let me know when I'm screwing it up. Much appreciated. Definitely not perfect yet with this new software. Anyways, so that's a great spot. Let's keep going though, like Somerville. I'm not going to look at Navionics too much, Will, on this lake, because the Navionics is, like you said, it's pretty flat. There's not a lot going on. So I think that you're going to be better suited just kind of finding these areas using Google Earth as opposed to actually using Navionics, because the Navionics didn't look like it was super spot on this lake. So another place I saw, let me go find that area I was looking for. I was looking at right here. This is a nice little point right here. I love the look of this point. You can actually see that there's a little bit of rock down this bank, or like, I don't know if it's rock or if it's just, it looks like it's like maybe a harder sand bottom, but it's really white sand down this bank. And it just looks like it's a little more coarse sand. And even though it maybe isn't like a hard chunk rock, these fish in the spring and in the spawn love to spawn up around these nice little sandy spots, these white sand areas. And so there's probably gonna be some fish that are sitting out in front of this point. Here's a little point that sticks out, and looks like there might be some deeper water out here. So I would sit the boat out right about here, Will. Now I cast up to this point using an Carolina rig or a rattle trap, and especially a Carolina rig. Just put a Carolina rig with like a 4-foot leader and a lizard, cast out and just drag it, and you're going to be catching a bunch of fish. So try that right there, especially when it gets into like February, March. That's going to be a killer spot. Bucketmouth, it'd be cool if you have a video on the fish finder. I'm doing that. I'm making that video, edited it all day today. I'm going to be editing it all day tomorrow. It's going to be like a 20-minute video. I'm going to have images from side scan, down scan, 2D sonar, Navionics. I'm also going to be showing Google Earth images. I'm also going to be showing my setup for my graphs, how I set up the graphs, the settings, how to find fish, what fish look like on the graph, how they look on side scan versus down scan versus 2D sonar. Probably the most comprehensive guide I can make, hopefully, on sonars and fish finders. So hopefully that will be helpful to you guys, and I might have to make a follow-up video. There's so much to talk about, but I'm trying to keep it kind of concise and also make it so that it's not awful to watch. I don't want you guys just sitting there like, oh my god, just stop talking about contrast and sensitivity. We get it. So hopefully that will be good. Let's see here. What is a laydown? I honestly don't know exactly. Laydown, just a tree that fell down in the water. Thank you, Gabe. yeah, anytime a tree falls in the lake, and then you have just those like branches and stuff like that, that's a laydown. And then let's see here, everybody, good info. Thanks everyone for the comments and stuff in the chat too. It's super helpful, especially when I'm missing stuff and or maybe if I can't get to an explanation fast enough. Really liking the comments. So let's get back over here to Lake Somerville. So another spot that I want to show Will is this right here. This is so cool. This is a little pond levee. And if you look right here, there's a nice little like rocky shelf right here, or what looks like rock. Maybe it's grass, I'm not really sure, but there's some like deeper water in behind it. You can see there's still some standing water there. This looks like a great spot to throw a Carolina rig. There's also a little pond thing over here. And when the lake's flooded, the lake's going to be flooded all the way up to this bank. And so fish, for whatever reason, especially in Arkansas, I have a bunch of spots in like Lake Maumelle and places like Lake Dardanelle where I'll catch them throughout the winter in the middle of these big flats. This is a flat. It's all the same depth. You can see it's all flat. And all of a sudden, it drops off into the channel right here, or into this little depression. And so it's flat all around it. Then there's a little bit deeper water here. And fish in the wintertime love to sit in these type of areas. And they'll sit here all winter. They won't leave. Because they have that deeper water and they have the rock to keep the water warm, bait fish will stay there and fish will stay there year round. So just, again, throw a jig or a Carolina rig up in this area and you're going to be catching some fish, hopefully. Maybe, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, it works in Arkansas, let's put it that way. So one more spot I wanted to show you is this nice little road bed over here, Will. This is just textbook stuff. So here's this road. You can see the road comes right here, and then it continues and it goes right into here, and it continues around this corner. But this is a hard rock road. There's also looks like there's an on-ramp or an off-ramp or something too, right in here. And so this rock is normally underwater, and right in the center of this, I'm sure there's some sort of like culvert or some sort of rock down there. Normally a creek channel will probably run underneath it and they'll create like a culvert. I would take a Carolina rig and like a Strike King 5, Series 5 or 5XD and just crank it over the top of these road beds, and pretty sure there could be some bass there. This looks like a good spawning bank. It's protected from the wind, from a north wind. This looks like a great spawning area with that white sand. Also, this is a big spawning flat. This whole thing is a spawning flat. Shallow water as far as the eye can see. There's bushes and stuff, but that road bed is going to be money. So just fish those few spots I just talked about, Will, and I think you're going to be pretty happy with what you find on Lake Somerville. I'm not going to go to Navionics just because they don't show any of this great stuff, and I don't think there's really a need. So just go check those spots out. Also, if you come over to this island here too, just real quick, there's also some really good chunk rock on this island, I just noticed, and I would crank this with a crankbait too. There's very little rock on Lake Somerville, and this is the only rock I've seen on the entire lake other than the man-made stuff that we've noticed with the road bed and with the pond levee. So crank this rock right here. If the sun's out, that's going to be a good spot for you too. So there we go. That's Lake Somerville. Let's get back over here to the chats for a second. And then let's see what people are saying. So 44 people are showing up. Hopefully there's some word of mouth, or maybe people are figuring it out. If you guys, I've heard some comments before that people aren't maybe too inclined to share the videos because they want to keep them a secret for themselves. And I know that's probably a joke, but it might not be a joke. But please do share my videos if you could. It would just helps make it easier when I'm getting feedback and getting people watching the videos. Helps make it all worth it. I mean, I'm spending anywhere from 8 to 10 hours fishing and then 8 to 10 hours editing all these videos. So I'm putting about 20 hours into each video just to make sure it's really good content for you guys. And I don't know if you guys are knowing I'm putting much effort in, but it's a lot of work with all the stuff I do. And so, it's like working another part-time job just to put out another video. And so if you guys could share out the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And it just, makes it so that I'm not just putting out content for a few people. If I could share these with as many people as possible and get the word out about bass fishing, I really appreciate it. And again, thank you for being here. You guys are the loyal people who've been here since the beginning. I've recognized almost all your names from comments before. So again, I really appreciate all of your support. So let's see here. What's the difference between high chirp and 88 and 200? I don't really know much about the chirp. I know that's for like down scan, maybe like 2D sonar. I always just do like the 83/200 on hertz on my Hummingbird, and then sometimes I'll switch it when I don't like the image quality. I think sometimes on really muddy bottom lakes, I think I go to 83 or maybe it's 200. I switch to one of the two. I just set it just to 83 or just to 200, and it gives me a cleaner picture. With my graphs, I normally just kind of mess around with the settings until it looks good. I don't really have like all of it dialed in perfectly because sometimes I'm not really changing that setting too much. But a lot of times you can just go in and if you want the picture to be clear on a Hummingbird, at least the three things you got to change is you have to change the sonar you're using, like the 83 or the 200 hertz or a combination of both. You can change the sensitivity and contrast, which basically makes it brighter or less bright, or makes it like more crisp or less crisp. And then the last is the sharpness. And if you're using a Hummingbird Onyx or like a Hummingbird Helix, for whatever reason, or at least on the Onyx, I like using sharpness on the medium setting. For some reason, that gives me a really good picture. Anything else, like a low or high sharpness or no sharpness, it looks really bad. I don't know why. I was really disappointed with my graph when I first got it until I found the right settings, and now it looks money. Ryan says road beds are money in the spring. That is true. Road beds are so good in the spring. If you have a road bed and you're like, just fish it. Like, even if it's up shallow, just fish it. There's going to be fish there. What do you know about that delete fish finder? Don't know really anything about that. Let's see here. Do you like Lavin? Luke, just send me an email. There's a instructions at the bottom right corner of the screen there. It says, want me to look at your lake? Email me at fishthemoment1@gmail.com. Just send me an email with that lake, with that information there. Make sure it has Navionics, and I'm going to be able to look at it. Kevin Altice just did a $20 donation. Thank you so much. Super chat. Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate it. I got an email from Kevin, I think, today as well. So thank you for the suggestion. And thank you so much, guys, for the support. I really do appreciate it. Johnny finding rock on Somerville. That's impressive. Thanks, Ryan. You seem to know a lot of all the lakes. I don't know. You like I'm worried that you're actually like Gerald Swindle or something. You know, sneaking in on the chat under a different alias. I don't know. Okay. All the fish in my fish finder always swim from left to right. I don't know why, but I always end up on the right side of the bank. I don't know. That's I might not be. I might have to take another look at that, Chris. That comment. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but hopefully, someone else got you. Howdy from Texas to everyone. Tight lines. Thank you, Clifford. Again, thanks for the donation, and hopefully this Texas stuff, like Somerville's helping out. Cool info. Too bad I live in SoCal. Clemente, I'll make sure I get to some of those California lakes. I saw your email, and so I'll make sure that I get over to some lakes over there. I'm not a big West Coast fisherman. I've never fished in the West Coast, but I've watched a ton of shows out there, so I kind of have somewhat of an idea of how the fish set up. Maybe I can use some of my knowledge here from the East and bring it over to the West and maybe help you find some fish. I recommend your hard work. I've recommended friends. Thank you, Gabe. Justin, good to see you. Another good one. Okay, so watch out, Academy Sports. Here I come. What Sims do you keep your fish finder on? Bucket mouth. I'll be having a video out hopefully tomorrow on that with all the fish finder settings. So just be watching out for that. I'll show what the settings do and everything on the screen too. I show it all in the video. I normally keep it around like 9 to 12 though, is kind of where I keep it. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, Clemente, I got your email already. Clifford, what pound test do you use while winter fishing? Kind of depends on when I'm fishing, Clifford. Clifford. If I'm fishing crankbaits, I'm normally going to fish 10-pound test on my flat side crankbait, so I'll use 10-pound fluorocarbon. If I'm fishing a jerkbait, I'll use 12-pound fluorocarbon. If I'm fishing a jig, I'm using 15-pound fluorocarbon. And if I'm fishing a rattle trap, I'm also throwing 15-pound fluorocarbon. And then on my Alabama rigs, I'm throwing 25-pound big game monofilament. And those are the only 5 baits I fish in the winter. If you watch my videos, I throw flat side crankbait, I throw a rattle trap, a football jig, a jerkbait, and an Alabama rig. 5 baits. That's all I throw in the winter, all year. I don't put any other baits in my hand. I know some people might think it's crazy, but I've tried fishing jigging spoons. I've tried fishing underspins, all that stuff, and I catch fish on it. I've caught fish on them in the past, but for whatever reason, I can consistently catch limits of fish and good limits of fish in Arkansas if I just stick with those 5 baits. If I keep those 5 baits in my hand in Arkansas, I'm going to foot a limited fish in the boat. I wouldn't say every time, but a lot of times. If you watch my videos, you can kind of see that. Johnny, am I an undergrad? No, I'm actually a graduate student, getting my MBA. Graduated a couple of years ago. Yeah, Clemente, we're good. Ryan says, I'm a noob. Well, hopefully this stream's helping out a little bit, but I don't know. You seem like you know what you're talking about. You think of sandbagging a little bit here. See here. When is pre-spawn and spawn? Because everyone has a different idea. How do you find spawning bass, bucket mouth? So when I'm doing, when I'm figuring out if it's spawn or pre-spawn, it all depends on water temp for me. So it doesn't matter what time of the year, because sometimes fish spawn in February in Arkansas, sometimes they spawn in April or May, but it all depends on water temperature. So if the water temperature gets above 60 degrees, the fish are going to be spawning in Arkansas, and if it get a really big stable weather for like even a week or two, and the water temps stay at 60 degrees for 2 weeks, there's going to be fish moving up to spawn. And then the pre-spawn is any time when the water temperatures, for me at least, when they get between 50 and 60 degrees. That's when I think pre-spawn happens. So normally that happens at the beginning to middle of February. And so when the water temps get down there, it's the 50 degree mark and then start coming back up. But on some lakes, like in Texas, the water temps stay at 50 all year, and pre-spawn happens quick. Like it'll happen in January, so there's not really much of a winter. And then like in Florida, they just start spawning. Like I don't know how Florida works, but they just start spawning all the time. So, anyways, let's see here. Tactile bass is a good source for West Coast. Yep. They talk a lot about tackle. They don't show a lot of areas, which is kind of the one thing that a lot of YouTubers don't really do. They don't really show the areas they fish. That's one thing I like to do on mine, is show exactly where I'm fishing. I know those guys are guides, so they do it for a living, so they can't give up all their areas, but it would be nice if they could maybe show us some navionics once in a while. How do we do the donation? Just click the little super chat. It's below. It says say something. It's right next to the smiley face, and there's like a little money sign. It's on there at the bottom of the screen too. Johnny knows what's up on specific line baits. Can you point to the gravel roll-off you're talking about a lot at? So the gravel, it's basically on Table Rock and places like that. You basically want to look for areas where the rock goes from big rock to small rock to like pebbles. So it's just a rock transition, or just anywhere where it goes from big rock to small rock. That's what they like on the Ozarks and a lot of lakes around here, even in Texas. And I did a video. It was easy winter pattern for catching bass, and there's a video on it, and I explained all that. So there's guys, you're going so many comments. Kanan, thank you. Fish with Kanan the other day. You're literally the best informational videos on YouTube. Yeah, Kanan's good fisherman, fished together with me. I've lost all the audio on that video, which sucked. We fished together. We had a slugfest, caught like very few pounds of fish, but it was a very close tournament. But I wish I had got that video out, but lost all the audio. Okay, so Mark Davis, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to do this. I was fishing the other day and very cold. Feel confident I can take this knowledge. If that's the Mark Davis, then I'm flattered that you're taking my advice. I'm pretty sure it's not Mark Davis, but if it is, then hit me up on Lake Washita. I'd love to go out there with you. Anyways, let's see here. So let me get back to this live stream. I got off track on all the comments and stuff. If the temperature is right, how you can tell if they're spawning, what do you look for? I'll get to this last one to follow up on bucket mouths. One thing, when they're spawning, you're going to see a bunch of fish on the bank. So you can just either go up to the bank, and if it's clear, you can see fish swimming around up shallow. So just get on the trolling motor and just go down the bank in 2 foot of water and just look for fish. You can normally see beds, which is basically a white circle. The fish will go in, they'll wag their tail, and they'll fan out these beds. Another time you'll know when they're spawning is if you catch a big fish up really shallow and their tail is bloody. The bottom of their tail is actually bloody, or they're just really fat. And they're up in like 2 foot of water, they're probably spawning as well. So that's how you can tell. I'll do more videos on that. It's kind of hard to talk about just on the stream. But yeah, Rye Red's got me with the blade tails. Okay, so let me get back to this so I can get to these lakes. We're an hour in. We got 2 more lakes to do, so I think we're pretty much right on time. Okay, let's go to the next lake. So next lake we're going to is everybody's fan favorite from last stream, which is Lake Chickamauga. Okay, so Lake Chickamauga, this is a famous bass mecca. There's like a 15 pounder caught there last week. Tons of 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 pounders caught here ever since that A-rig started coming up. Even before that, they were catching them. Lake Chickamauga, fish a ton of tournaments out there. There's like 45-pound bags getting caught out there, 50-pound bags of for 5 bass. It's Tennessee River impoundment. It is a really diverse fishery. It has grass in it. It has like river ledges with shell beds, things like that. There's creeks and all kinds of good stuff on Chickamauga. They fish Bass Fest there. Jacob Wheeler won out there for Bass Fest, if you've seen that. They also fish it for FLW quite a bit. So for today, this is a suggestion by Caleb from Bass Quest, by the way, and he does a ton of videos on Chickamauga, and he catches big fish. So he wanted me to look at Chickamauga. He's probably should be telling me about Chickamauga, but hopefully I can maybe give him a few new ideas, or at least can verify if I'm on with my comments. So for this, Chickamauga is huge. I don't know if you guys know, it's massive. And so I'm going to be looking today at just the area between Ware Branch and Doss Hollow. And I don't know if that means anything to anybody. I just saw that on Navionics, but this is what I think is Ware Branch. It's like one of these creeks, and then Doss Hollow, I think, is like somewhere up here, maybe in this area. So I'm just going to go from like here to here on Chickamauga, just because it's such a big lake, and I can't cover it all in one video. I might look at it, if you guys want me to look at Chickamauga again, I might look at it in another time, like another season. But let's just look at this on Navionics, or on Google Earth first, and then we'll look at Navionics as well. So Chickamauga. This is, again, a great fishery, and it's kind of like a river system. So there's some dirty water running through the lake. And at Lake Dardanelle, we also have a similar layout where it's kind of a river system with backwaters. We have main river grass. We have main river shell beds. So I think it looks like it sets up a lot like Lake Dardanelle. And when I'm fishing in Lake Dardanelle, which is on the Arkansas River, in the wintertime, I'm always looking for clear water. I want to look for water with at least 1.5 to 2 foot visibility. And using Google Earth, we can actually do that pretty easily. So if we look at this map here, I actually took the time back a few years to find a good image. But if you look on this map right here, you can see that this main river is kind of muddy. It's kind of brown. It doesn't look like super clean. But then if we come back into this creek right here, this water right here is very clean. This is some very clean water. And I like the look of this water right here. Let's maybe try to move it up. We can maybe get another better image. Some of these, yeah, right here. So this is great. So you can see main river is really muddy, and then this water right here is really clear in this little creek. And I know on Chickamauga they catch a bunch of big fish in Alabama rigs and jerkbaits. That's like big time on the winter fishing for Chickamaugas, jerkbaits and Alabama rigs. And when I'm fishing those baits, I like to have, especially at jerkbait, I like to have clean water. And so I would go up into, I would probably, if I was going to start on Chickamauga, I would go into this creek and I would start fishing around, there's like some grass here. So I'd probably try to fish the outside edge of this grass with either like a jerkbait, maybe fish the Alabama rig on the outside edge of the grass, maybe a rattle trap. And then I would fish these like steep points. Looks like, we could check Navionics, but it looks like these are some steeper banks. There's a nice little rock railroad right here, and that looks great for fishing like a flat-sided crankbait, something like that on this riprap, and also underneath the bridge, throw in an Alabama rig underneath the bridge like I do at Dardanelle. And then the water starts to muddy up actually right about here. You can see that water goes from clear to muddy. And so I'd stop fishing right about in here. I would stay in that clean water and just kind of fish in this whole area. So this little pocket right here looks great just from this mouth right to here. So that's what I would check out first. Another creek that looked good is this creek just right up the way. More, again, clean water in through here. And then right about here, it starts to muddy off. So it gets a little bit muddier here. So we check on Navionics, but I'd look at maybe like that point, somewhere around these pockets, down these steeper walls. We'll check out all that. Another thing I would look at would be this other creek. There's just 3 creeks really I would just fish if I was fishing out here. This creek right here, it looks like it has a little more grass in it, and I maybe try to fish rattle trap, but again, clean water, which is always good this time of year. Another thing that I would do on Chickamauga, I know on the Tennessee River, and even like on Lake Dardanelle we do it too, but the main river with fishing main river shell beds and main river grass beds is huge on Tennessee River. And so I'll pull up Navionics, but it looked like there was some really good main river bars, which is basically like a big hump or a big like ridge that runs across the right parallel to the river channel, and they call them bars. And I'll show you on Navionics, but a lot of these bars have grass up on top of them, and these fish will stage on these bars right here, and then they'll move back into these creeks to spawn. Especially if the creek isn't like super clear water, they'll sit out here on the main river channel, especially if sometimes the main river channel is cleaner than the back creeks if it's rainy. If it rains a lot, these creeks will get washed out with mud, and the main river channel will actually be cleaner, so they'll sit out here in the mouth of these pockets. And so we'll look on Navionics and try to find some good bars, and I would fish a rattle trap, and I would fish an Alabama rig off these bars. So let's see if there's some guys. I'm kind of looking through your. I think I saw someone said they catch fish in this creek, so that's good. That Ware Branch is really good for crappie. Good to know. I might be a tough turn crappie guide. Are bass really smaller up north? I'll let someone else cover that for Clifford. They're a little bit. I would say that they don't grow as big, just because the Florida strain largemouth grow bigger than the northern strain, and there's a lot of Florida strain down here in Texas. Let's see here. I'm getting bass bullies. I'm getting a bunch of guys giving me some love for all the 10 killer, or for the not 10 killer, for Chickamauga. So keep letting me know if I'm doing it right, and also leave extra commentary for people in here to let them know what I'm missing. One of my go-to finesse jigs, I use a Strike King quarter-ounce finesse jig. It's a tour grade finesse jig. You can find them on Tackle Warehouse. I like those a lot, quarter-ounce. Let's see here. Okay, so let's keep going then. So let's go over to Navionics now and talk through that and see what it looks like. I haven't switched screens in a while, I feel like. Okay, Chickamauga. Okay, here's Chickamauga. Just love the look of like a river type lake. It just fills me with confidence. I don't know why. I think it's because I fish Dardanelle a lot here in Arkansas. But okay, so here's that first spot I was looking at, and this is that little creek here. I think this is Ware Branch, maybe. I can look. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But you guys know. I don't. But right here, this is what I'm talking about. So like right here, this is a nice little ridge that runs this lake. The creek, the contour lines are up at 7 foot of water, 6 foot of water, and then over here is like 20 feet, and then here's the main river channel. And if I was fishing Dardanelle or fishing like even like a lake like Pickwick, I would think that these little high spots right here, you see that little area, it's 6 foot here, 20 foot on both sides. That high spot is a great place for shell beds or shells to congregate. The current will wash down this river, and these shells will pile up on the side of these hard rocky areas. Especially if there's any kind of rock down there, the shells will just go straight to them. And shad love to get up on these shell beds. And so I would think either right around here or right around here, there's another high spot in about 5 feet of water. I would think that those high spots are not only going to have rock on them, they're also going to have shell. And if there's any grass around it, I think that's going to be a killer spot for like a rattle trap. So I think that that's probably going to be a good little area for these guys and Chick to check out. Again, here's another little spot. Here's the main river channel, and then here's another little high spot. I love talking about high spots. You guys probably hear me talking about them a lot in my videos, but high spot is any place it's kind of like a bowl underwater. So you go around, and all around it is deeper water, and then right up on top, it comes up like a little mound or a little bowl up on top of the water, upside down bowl. Maybe that's not the best example, but it's like a little hump. And if you find these little areas where you get shallow water like that right there, and it's surrounded by deeper water, that's always going to be hard bottom areas. And Navionics is really good for that because they show a lot of these little humps or these little high spots, and it's just a great way to find hard bottom, especially on lakes in the north. If you're fishing a lake that's full of grass, look for these little high spots, because it's always going to tell you where hard bottom is. And when you're fishing a lake with a bunch of grass, like Lake Minnetonka up in Minnesota, I used to fish up in Wisconsin a lot, and there's a lot of lakes like that up there too. We always fish areas where there's rock underneath the grass. And it's hard to see the rock. You can't actually tell if there's rock there when all the grass is growing up because it'll grow up to the surface. And so we use navionics to find these high spots that had hard bottom, and you'd punch a 1-ounce jig through the grass and you could feel it hitting the bottom, hitting the hard bottom, and the bluegill get down there, the perch will get down there, and bass get down there. You can catch some big ones. So let's see here. Let's keep going. Let's go back over this creek that I was talking about. So those main river bars, I'll show you guys another one here in a second, but those are just textbook. Here's another, not really a bar. That's just more like a main river ledge. That's a summertime spot right there. That looks like, I don't know if you guys who fish on Chick know, but that's probably a money. It's probably a community hole. That's probably a community hole. I could probably pick out all the best community holes in this lake just using navionics, but it was a community hole at one point, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, so this creek, so this pocket right here, this pocket looks great. Creek channel runs in right across here, and these fish are probably going to set up right on, especially with that grass out here and like 6 foot. I'm sure these fish are probably going to set up right here in this grass, catch them on the rattle trap, and then there's a creek on both sides, right here and right here. Creek channel runs here. Main river channel or creek channel runs here, and that point is going to be money with a rattle trap if there's grass there. All these banks are here super steep. If you look at this bank, the creek channel runs right up against the bank, and the contour lines are really close to the bank. That's going to make like somewhat of a bluff wall. Bluff wall is anything, you could kind of tell, like, you know what bluff wall is, but it's a straight up and down wall. And fish love to get on those in the wintertime because they can move up shallow really quick. To get up against the wall and feed shallow, but they can also move right into the channel if a cold front happens. And that's always really good, especially in the winter when the water gets cold. Shad will start dying. And when shad start dying, they'll kind of float like up to the surface, and bass love to get along bluff walls and feed on dying shad. So let me get back to the comments to make sure we get everybody. So there's a ton of comments. Joe Pool. Joe Pool is, I've heard Joe Pool is amazing. One of my friends fishes out there and posts pictures of like 8s and 10s all the time fishing offshore out there. I would love to get on Joe Pool. Let's see here. You can learn a lot from local guys. Yeah, I agree. Bass Bullies. I fish a lot with the locals on Dardanelle, and it helps a ton just knowing all the little like secret spots and all the stuff that, you know, aren't the community holes. You can catch fish on community holes all day long, but knowing the little stuff that only people who fish there for 20 years now. And actually, I've created some spots among the locals too, just graphing around. I found a bunch of shell beds and spots using my navionics like I'm showing you today. And I found spots that none of the locals had ever fished. And like a couple tournaments, I go out and I catch like 18, 19, 20 pounds. And then I would have the locals come over to me like, what were you fishing out there? Because I only fish a couple tournaments on Dardanelle each year. And I tell them, and then there's like the 10 locals, they know the spot now, and now they go fish it, which is kind of funny. Anyways, let's see here. Squat Creek, I've heard of that. Ledge fishing this year. Yeah, BG Fishing said that people were getting angry at him for fishing community holes, ledge fishing. People on Tennessee River are crazy. I fished a tournament on Pickwick, and I would just like run up on some community holes, try to run them, and I'd have people freaking out, or I'd have people pull up right up next to me and fish the same spot I'm fishing while I'm fishing it, which I've never had that happen to me in Arkansas. People would get in fist fights, I feel like, in Arkansas if that happened, but they're okay with it on the Tennessee River. You can tie boats together, I feel like, and no one's going to get angry and fish the same spot, even if you're fishing the same tournament. Crazy stuff. Maybe that's just college fishing, though. Anyways, here's that bridge. Good stuff. Here's that rocky bank we're talking about in this creek, so really good stuff. Here's this other creek. Again, all these creeks are just, they have really good deep water in them. They were clean water creeks. All of the little channel swing banks in here where this creek channel, it comes in right here. This little spot right here is going to be money because that creek channel swings in right in really close, and then it tails off, and fish will spawn in this little creek or this little pocket right here, and they'll stage right on this deep water, right where it goes from deep, and then this line starts to spread out and get shallower. They're going to sit right on that transition. These transition banks are always money in the spring and in the winter. So find this deep bluff wall, and then look for the areas where the contour lines start to spread out. That's where you're going to get some big bass. And then let me pull up another, find another main river bar. Here we go. So here's our main river bar that you guys might like. So here's a main river bar. It sits out in the middle of the lake here. This is probably more of like maybe well, it might not be. It kind of looks like a summer spot, like a summer ledge. But if you can see, you have a creek channel that runs here, a creek channel that runs right around here, and it's 37 feet, 37 feet. And up on top, it's like 11 feet of water. And it's kind of like a small little underwater island. And in the Tennessee River, fish love to get on these bars. And they'll sit, if there's grass down there, they'll love to get on grass. Or they'll just sit and ambush bait that gets pushed by the current. It'll get pushed this way and this way around the tip of this island. And they'll sit either right on the face of the island, or they'll tuck in on like these little turns right here. And they'll tuck in right here, right here, right here. And you can catch a bunch of fish cranking with a striking 6XD, throwing this flutter spoon, football jig, stuff like that. But they also get on these, like here's another little shallow bar, and they'll get on these spots in the wintertime and stage to move back in these creeks. And so like this spot right here looks great because you see how sharp those contour lines are. It's super shallow to super deep water really fast. 8 foot down to 30 foot within, a casting distance. And so I'm sure that if there's grass up on this spot or some shell, fish are going to stage here in the spawn or stage here in the winter because they can move from deep water up to shallow water really quick. And then they can move back into this creek and spawn. So let's get to some comments and then we'll get to the last lake here. You guys are killing it in these comments. I'm loving this. Ledge fishing. Let's see. I've got that one. What baits are best for bluff walls when the water is really cold, 45 degrees and lower? A Lucky Craft jerkbait, a Lucky Craft jerkbait, or a Lucky Craft jerkbait. I would throw one of those 3 lures and probably throw it in the chartreuse shad color. I really throw one bait on bluff walls in wintertime in Arkansas. It's a Lucky Craft Pointer 100 in chartreuse shad color. That's it. Watch a video on my channel. It's how to fish suspending jerkbaits in the winter for winter bass. And I fish bluff walls on Lake Dardanelle in Piney Bay, and I catch a 6 and a 7. And I've done that multiple times, and I catch a ton of big fish on Lake Hamilton, or I have in the past. I didn't this year. The water wasn't cold enough for that jerkbait bite, but I have in the past. I catch a bunch of fish on Beaver Lake, Grand Lake, places like that on bluff walls. So just fish a jerkbait. If the water's below 45 degrees, let the bait sit for 10 to 15 seconds. If it's below 45 degrees, let it sit there forever. You have to let it sit for a long time. If you fish it quick, it's not going to work out. Let's see here. Most people, Tennessee River, are cool. You have the people who act like they own the lake. Yeah, I I know what you mean. Okay, so let's see here. Jeff Goodson, he said, I enjoy your channel, appreciate the info you provide. Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate the support and the comment. See here, and then awesome info, Urban Bass Slayer Sacramento. Awesome info. Ryan R., have you ever thrown a plopper? I have never caught a fish on a whopper plopper. That will blow everyone's mind. I've thrown it some. I love a buzzbait though. I am the biggest fan of a buzzbait ever. If you watch my summer videos, I throw a buzzbait in like every video I fish in the morning. I don't maybe show. Sometimes I'll catch fish and not even put them in the video on the buzzbait because I think you guys are gonna be sick of me catching fish on buzzbaits. But I'll throw a War Eagle buzzbait, 3/8 ounce War Eagle buzzbait with a horny toad on the back, Zoom horny toad, all black, and I'll throw that from May through November, and I'll have one on the deck of the boat year-round, and people love the whopper plopper. I think because people are throwing the whopper plopper so much, people aren't throwing buzzbaits as much anymore, and I catch a ton of fish still on the buzzbait, even more so than people on the plopper. And I can also skip a buzzbait. When you put that horny toad on it, you can skip it under bushes. If you watch my video, it's like how to fish buzzbaits in the summertime or how to fish on rainy days in the summertime. I catch like a 6 and a 7 on the buzzbait on like Atkins in Arkansas, skipping it under bushes. That was a good day too. But yeah, buzzbaits are so good. I just can't put one down to throw the plopper. Is anyone in Arkansas on here? There's a lot of people from outside Arkansas. Besides Johnny. Gabe said he's from here. Try the 90. I've tried the 90 too. I like the 90. I've thrown both. I know they catch them really well on the Ozark lakes, like Table Rock, Lake of the Ozarks, places like that. I don't know. I've just never really thrown it enough. It's probably just one of the things I haven't thrown it enough to build confidence in it. I know it's really good. I didn't fish in the post spawn last year. I was in China studying abroad for the MBA program, and so I was over there. I got a bunch of really cool swim baits for super cheap while I was in China too. I got some like these giant, massive swim baits. I don't even know what they're called, but they're really big. And I'm gonna try to throw those too, but I don't know. I miss out on the post spawn, and that's my favorite time of the year to fish. I catch them on flukes, and I'm sure the chatter or the whopper plopper would be really good. See here, Arkansas, Ryan Watkins. What's up, Ryan? Missing the beginning. West Coast Bassin notification go off. Don't worry, West Coast Bassin. The video is going to be posted onto YouTube right after it's done, so you can go back and watch it if you want. So it'll be on there, and you guys can go back and watch through all this. He says the 110 rocks. Let's see here. Did you ever throw a Roman-made mother triple? I have no idea what that is. It sounds like a musky bait, but I might be wrong. BJ fishing. I've never heard of that. I'm pretty simple when it comes to fishing lures, guys. I fish a jig and a crankbait like 85% of the time, and a buzzbait and a frog. I fish a lot of baits, but I fish a jig and a jerk or a jig and a crankbait like 60% of the time, and I throw two color jigs, a black and blue jig and a green pumpkin jig, and I fish 3 color crankbaits: sexy shad, chartreuse blackback, and sexy blueback herring. Those are the only colors I throw in crankbaits. Also throw a red crankbait, like this Delta red. So 4 color crankbaits, I guess. But I only fish 4 color crankbaits. I'm actually colorblind, and so I can't even see color very well at all. So I can't tell the difference between like watermelon and green pumpkin. I can't tell the difference at all. Most baits when I go to a tackle store, I see like 4 or 5 colors, so it doesn't really bother me what the color of the baits are. It's never really been a big deal for me, and so I've always seemed to do fine just by sticking with like a couple colors. Green pumpkin when the water's clear, like 2 foot of visibility and more. And if it's 2 foot of visibility and less, black and blue for jigs. And then I've done videos on my crankbaits and stuff. You can kind of see what colors I use them for my crankbaits. You can see that, but yeah. Either way. Let's see here. What's your favorite winter lure? Buckmouth, like I said, I fish 5: jig, flat-sided crankbait, rattle trap, Alabama rig, jerkbait. 5, and those are my 5. I wouldn't say I have a favorite of those. It just depends on the situation. But if you watch all my videos from the winter or the past 2 years, every fish I've caught has been on one of those 5 baits. For only exception is going to be the next video where I catch fish on a Ned rig. Let's see here. Do you ever fish current breaks up rivers, Johnny? Yes, on Lake Dardanelle. I love doing that. Way up the river. Also, Arkansas River. The Arkansas River, most of the Arkansas River is just all jetties. I don't know if you know what those are, but they're like man-made rock obstructions that basically stop the current from washing away the sand banks and the mud banks. And so the block current, and I've done a video on the Arkansas River fishing jetties. You can check that out. I did a summer video on that. But yeah, current breaks are great. Way up the river, if you can find like any kind of, I don't know, I have a video on that actually on fishing river breaks. It's how to fish current in the winter or in the fall or something. There's a fall video I did on Lake Hudson in Oklahoma that sets up a lot like Chickamauga as well. And so I have a bunch of videos. If you guys just watch my old videos, I have a lot of pretty good content on there on a lot of these different things. I'm sure you don't have time to watch every single one of them, but just check a few of them out if you haven't. Some of the older ones, they're still pretty good. I think I did a pretty good job editing them, but yeah, I definitely do fish the current breaks. Maumelle. I never night fished Maumelle. I fished until night, but never through the night. Maumelle's a good lake. I like it a lot. That's where I did this video. I caught a 7.5 pounder out there a couple winters ago. The lake has some big fish in it. Not very many people know, so I keep that one a secret. Talking about these giant swim baits that sell for a ton. Okay, here. Can I get a shout out? West Coast Bassin. West Coast Bassin, what's up? There's the shout out. I don't know if that was to me or if that was to someone else, but I gave you the shout out too. So I did it first. Either way. So how long does it take for a lake to warm up after a drastic weather change? I'm not really sure. I would just check the water temperature when I get to the lake, and hopefully it's warmer than it was before. I normally just, whenever it's the lake, I deal with the conditions, and I'm not really I guess I don't really pay attention to that too much, but that's a good question. Okay, let's see here. Cool. So that's all the questions. So we have one more lake to cover. We have 30 minutes left in the stream, so that's perfect. So let's get to the last lake and then a few more questions and then we'll be good. 47 people watching. That's awesome. It's been consistent too, like 30 to 40 people, which is great, especially for my second stream. So again, keep sharing these with friends. I really appreciate it. And let me know if I'm doing a good job in the comments. Let me know if I'm covering the lakes enough, answering questions enough, if everything is flowing well, if my audio is too loud, just anything you could think of. I love constructive criticism. Don't beat me up too bad, but I love constructive criticism. If there's anything you guys want, I just want to make these better and more useful for you because you're the ones watching them. So just let me know whatever you need. So Clifford, Giant, do you use a slower gear ratio when fishing in the winter? Yes, I use a 5:3-to-1 gear ratio reel on my crankbaits, or a 5-to-1 gear ratio reel. And then I only own 3 7-to-1 gear ratio reels. That's the fastest gear ratio reel I own. All the rest of my reels are 6.3-to-1 or 5-to-1. And the only baits I throw on my 7-to-1 gear ratio reels are frogs, just because I don't like 7-to-1 gear ratio reels. And so I put braid on them because I like slow reels. I don't know. I grew up when a 6:3-to-1 gear ratio reel was super fast. I remember the days when I was throwing a 7-to-1 gear ratio, or when the 7-to-1 gear ratio came out, it was a quantum burner, 7-to-1. And I was like, who needs a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel? That's so fast. And so I never used them. I just always used 6:3-to-1. Also, all my reels are like 10 years old. So that's probably another reason. Either way. Let's see here. Let's get over to the next lake then. I keep getting distracted. So Last Lake. Last Lake is the one I'm very excited about. So it is a lake in South Carolina called Lake Monticello. And Lake Monticello was suggested by Jim Carr from Carolina Outdoor Adventures TV. And I would check out his content, go to his channel, Carolina Outdoor Adventures TV. Got some good stuff there, Jim Carr. And Lake Monticello is actually a lake I fished before. I fished it in 2009 or 10 or 11, somewhere around there, for a junior world championship. And it was the FLW Junior World Championship. I fished out here on this lake, and I never saw the lake before in my life. I just pulled out an old paper map and I picked out a road bed. And I actually couldn't find the road bed. I couldn't find the old map and I couldn't find the road bed on here. So I was better at finding stuff back then than I am now, apparently. But I just pulled out this road bed and I was like, this looks like a spot where there'd be a bridge. And I was like 13 years old, so I think that was pretty good. We went and fished there, and I caught I think like 9.5, 10 pounds of fish, and it was like during the summer, so it was a tough time of year to fish out there. And I led after the first day by like 6 pounds, and then the weights were zero the second day. I finished third after 2 days in that tournament, which is pretty good for never seeing the lake before and just picking a spot at random. But I love this lake. It looks a lot like Lake Washita in Arkansas, and there's really actually not that much to look at on Google Earth. There's some islands, and it's clear, and there's no river, there's no dirty water. It's just strictly a clear water. I guess that's how a lot of South Carolina lakes are. I know Murray gets pretty muddy up some of the arms, but it's just a clear lake. It's pretty deep, and the contour lines are crazy on this lake. So I'm going to skip the Google Earth because there's nothing to see really. There's not really any shoreline structure I can see. And from my experience out here, it's just an offshore bite, almost exclusively. I know you can catch fish shallow on any lake. You could probably catch them going up shallow with like a prop bait and stuff, fishing for brim beds and stuff like that in the summer. And you could probably catch them spawning up shallow. But in the winter, it's probably going to be an offshore, somewhat offshore bite. So let's go over to Navionics. So Navionics, so Lake Monticello. So this lake, you're going to see what I'm talking about. This lake has crazy contour lines. It's like, that's pretty messy. I'm actually going to, so one thing you can do on this Navionics web app is you can switch between sonar charts and Navionics charts. Sonar charts tells you, it gives you the most accurate map. It has the most contour lines on it, and it's user submitted maps. And if you go to strictly Navionics, there's less contour lines, and on some lakes like this, that actually is helpful because sometimes it's just too much. There's just too many contour lines. It's still pretty good. I mean, the stock Navionics map is still really good. So when you fish lakes like this in like South Carolina, Lake Murray, Lake Monticello, the thing that's really big in the wintertime is fishing drains. So what a drain is it's basically a area where a creek channel runs into a flat. You can also call it a ditch, but it's where a creek channel runs into a flat area, and then it kind of dies out. So there's nothing left. So it's not like a creek channel that runs through the entire lake and keeps going. It's a creek channel that runs into a flat and just stops. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So like right here, here's a drain. So it comes into this little flat area. There's shallow water here, there's shallow water here, there's shallow water here. And this creek channel comes off from this main river channel. It swings in here, and then it just kind of dies off. It just kind of ends right here in like 40 feet of water. And it just kind of comes up, boom, stops. And you can see it goes from the white is deep water and the blue is shallower water. It's still like 30 foot, but it's shallower relative to this lake. And so these are the type of areas these fish are going to get in. They'll get, I don't know if there's blueback herring in Lake Monticello, but even if there's just like shad, they'll pile up in these drains and ditches. And in the morning, the fish will actually get up really shallow in these drains. They'll get up in like shallow pockets in the first hour of the morning. So you can run in pockets like this one right here. Let me find a better one. This one right here looks good. So that creek channel runs in here, and it runs up to this dock. And these fish will sit right in the middle of this creek, or this little drain in this pocket. And they'll sit right in here, out in the middle, and you can catch them on a underspin with a zoom fluke on. You can catch them on swim bait, Alabama rigs, jerk baits, things like that. And it's really good stuff right here. And they'll just get in these drains, and if there's bait in there, they'll be really active the first hour of the morning. So I would definitely check out a spot like this. There's another little pocket right here. Jim, looks great. This is a shallow pocket, and there's a little bit of deep water running into it, and these fish will just kind of stack up in these pockets, and they'll only bite for like the first hour. I don't have an experience with this. I'm talking exclusively from what I've seen from Bassmaster Classics. I've watched like, I guess, one Bassmaster Classic when Casey Ashley won. I also watched another event Casey Ashley won on the FLW Tour, and then there's been a few tournaments on Lake Murray. I know Alton Jones won a tournament fishing drains and ditches with a football jig out in like 40 feet of water. So Ike and Ellie caught them a lot like this too. So I'm just taking what I've learned from those shows and some of my experience, like on Lake Washita, we do this too, but it's always with grass. There's grass in the middle of these ditches in Lake Washita. Here, there's no grass. So I have a little bit of grounds where I'm standing talking about this, but maybe not as much as like a South Carolina guy. But either way, I picked out 3 or 4 spots that I really liked on this lake that I thought would be great spots. Considering I fish similar stuff on Lake Washita, I tried to pick areas that look similar to what I fish here, and hopefully they'll be good. And the areas I'm going to talk about are areas where you have ditches that are hard to see on the bank. I'll explain what I'm talking about. So if you look at this creek channel runs off into this pocket. You can see this white line. Contour lines are shallow here where the blue is, and the white is deep water. So this creek channel runs in here. It runs into this pocket, and you can see that this creek channel forms a nice pocket. You can see on the shore, you can see the yellow. That's the shoreline. That's the pocket. You can also see this pocket is formed by this creek channel that runs in, a nice little pocket. What you can't see on the shore, though, is this little drain. If you look at this little drain comes in, and it tails off. It comes in right in behind this island. And it's really hard to see. You actually can't see it on the bank. You can't tell that there's a drain right there. And those are the type of spots on Lake Washita. They're sneaky and that hold a ton of fish. And people don't really fish a lot. And I also caught fish like this on these little spots on Lake Sam Rayburn Reservoir in Texas. And these little like drains and ditches. I don't remember what the part of the lake is called where I fished. But it's like right below the bridges on the running down. If you're running up the lake from the dam, it's going to be on the left side of the lake. There's a bunch of ditches and drains and stuff up that right before you get to the big bridge. Anyways, by the way, Ryan R., thank you again thank you for the donation, not much, but might as well get something for your time. Please do like Grapevine, Texas. I will, Ryan. Thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all of your commentary in the stream. Really appreciate it. Everyone. I mean, we have Clifford, we got Jeff, we got Bass Bullies has been going crazy in here. I think I said Clifford already. BG Fishing, West Coast, a bunch of guys in here just commenting like crazy. Thank you so much for all of the activity in the stream, for the support. It makes this really fun. It makes it fun to do and fun to interact with you guys. So anyways, so here's this little ditch. So Jim, if you're fishing out here, look for these little like subtle ditches, these subtle drains. And this little point right here could be pretty good. These fish could sit up on stage on this point. The blue herring, if there are any, can get blown up on this point, and they'll set up on this point right here. But I would check in this drain. If there's any like fallen trees or timber, they'll get in the bottom of these drains, and you can fish a football jig in the middle of that channel, that little ditch, and catch a bunch of fish. Another spot that looked like that I saw over here that I really liked was, let's see here, it's up here. Need to find it right here. This is another great spot. So if you look at this, there's a creek channel that runs into this pocket, and it's really obvious it makes this big pocket. Another creek channel runs in. You can see it makes this nice pocket. You can tell. This creek channel, on the other hand, runs into this bank, and you can't tell that there's a creek here. There's a nice creek channel here that forms this pocket, but this creek channel doesn't really form a pocket. It just runs right up against this bank, and it forms a deep area of deep water right by this point. And this point is right on the mouth of two big spawning pockets, and this ditch or drain is running up right against this point. And there's shallow water on this side, 14-foot shallow water on this side, and I'm thinking right even on this point or in this drain, maybe even in the morning, like right up in here, in the center of the drain, just throw an underspin, throw an Alabama rig, throw a jig. There's going to be fish here, or there's going to be fish up on this point. You can throw a jerkbait down this bank here, but that spot's going to be money as well. I really think that that's going to be a good spot. So that's going to be a good area. And then there's one more area that I wanted to show you before we just get to questions, is this area right here. So this island right here, there's definitely fish around this island. Like this time of year, this little island looks a lot like one of the islands I fish on Lake Washita. Not going to give the name because my friends on Lake Washita, they might slash my tires in my boat or something, so I'm not going to do that. But anyways, there's a really good island right here. And what it is you can see right here, another one of those little drains that doesn't form a creek, but it just runs in up into this point. It's really shallow right here, but that drain swings in and hits up against this island. And fish love to spawn around islands on lakes like Lake Monticello. Lake Washita, the spawn is crazy around the islands. That's where a lot of the biggest fish in the lake spawn. And so the fish are wanting to spawn around these islands. So in January and February, they're going to be moving up along these drains up to the bank here. And there's going to be staging off in the center of these drains. And you can catch them on, again, underspins, on the football jigs, things like that. So I would definitely check out that little drain. There's another one right on this side too. Another drain that comes in. And this pot, there's a little like shoreline, kind of like side of the island. That could be really good for a jerkbait. I've caught fish on Lake Washita just fishing jerkbaits off of areas like this where a drain comes in, and then there's not even any grass, but there might be some like timber or some sort of brush, and you could catch fish on areas like that. So we're an hour and 42 minutes in. Those are the 4 subscribers' lakes. Got through them all, glad. And hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Maybe you can leave a comment and let me know if you like this, if it was boring, if it was too long, if it was too short. Any comments would be great. And I'm going to start scrolling through these comments, just answering questions. And if you just want to start shooting questions, I'll be here for like 18, 20 minutes. Just Q&A. So just send any questions you want for the next like 20 minutes, and I'll just do Q&A. So let me see here. Johnny, got good content. There's some nice B-roll, awesome Google Earth shots. Don't know how he does it. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that, Ryan R. Let's see here. Bass Boy says I typically go to night by the night temps. The nights are warmer than it should warm up. So that's what Bass Boy is saying. So if the water temperature is like 45 degrees and the air temp's 50, overnight, and the water's going to be warming up because that's the coolest part of the day. So that makes perfect sense, Bass Bullies. Thank you for that. I'm going to remember that one for myself. If I fish against you in a tournament, I might use that against you, so thank you. Clifford said, Johnny, do you ever, oh, he's slower, she said that. Have you ever tried big swim baits around Arkansas? Ryan Watkins says, I've tried them. I've caught some fish on like the Somerville swim baits. They're not that big, 6-inch swim baits on like Washita, Lake DeGray, places like that. I also throw like 6-inch swim baits on Lake Dardanelle, a single 6-inch swim bait, and I'll fish it around like lily pad stems or just up shallow, just cast it down the bank. And sometimes you can catch some big fish doing that because nobody's throwing it. But I've never fished like a 10-inch swim bait or anything. I have all the gear for it, but I don't know. It's one of those things that you probably have to just go all day and fish, and as little as I get to fish, I'd rather go out and make sure I get content for y'all and make sure I go catch fish. But if I get more time on my hands, hopefully I can maybe waste a couple days, maybe not waste, but I could spend a couple days learning how to fish those big swim baits. See here. There is a far more superior lake, Monticello in Texas. Just saying, Ryan R., I've heard of Lake Monticello in Texas. It's pretty close to Arkansas, actually. That lake is loaded. Lily pads, standing timber. That lake is great. Great for the spawn. It just gets super crowded in the spawn. But yeah, I've heard of that lake. Bass Bullies is out. Thank you, Bass Bullies. Can't hear me now, obviously, but let's see here. Dusanti Cooper in South Carolina. The Timmerman, just send me an email, bottom right corner of the screen. You can send me an email at fishthemoment1@gmail.com. Tell me the lake name, state, county, water temp, and water clarity. Make sure, I know Santa Cooper has Navionics, so that's fine. Just send me an email with that. I'm just going to compile a list of all of your suggestions on my email, and that's where I'm going to take them. These comments on the stream like disappear after I'm done, so if you want me to look at your lake, just shoot me an email. See here, when's the next one? Next one's probably going to be next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to try to get some fishing in and edit some videos over the next few days. So hopefully I can get some more content out that's not live stream material. And then after next week, I'm back at school, and I'm just going to try to do them once a week on I'm thinking about doing them Thursday nights at 7:30 p.m. Let me know if you guys are interested in that time, if you like that time, 7:30. That's just what worked well for me, is Thursday nights at 7:30 is a good time for me. But if that's not a good time, let me know. I can try to adjust. If like a Friday night's better, Saturday, stuff like that. Normally Friday nights I'm getting ready for fishing or hanging out with friends or something, but just let me know. The real MVF, most valuable fisherman, is you, Johnny. Thank you, Mark Davis. Not the Mark Davis, but you're the Mark Davis in my book. Thanks for a great stream. Johnny, your favorite lake to fish all time? Lake Dardanelle. I love that lake. I've just spent a lot of time out there. I've had so many good memories on Lake Dardanelle. Finished second in the world in the high school world finals out there. Finished second, third, fifth, second, third, fifth, and 10th in the world. The 4 years I fished the high school world finals on that lake. So I love that lake. I didn't have any parents or anyone teach me how to fish, so I just figured it out on my own. It was the first lake where I felt like I figured it out on my own. I do my own thing, and I fish different from a lot of the locals out there and a lot of the other guys, so I get my own spots kind of myself, and I love that lake. How many seconds would you pause a jerkbait right now? Gabe, you say you're from Arkansas. I would let it sit. The water temp's cold right now in Arkansas. I would let it sit for 7 to 8 seconds minimum. Let's see here. Great info every time. These live streams have been great. Thank you, Ryan Watkins. Thanks for a great evening, Johnny. Every night is great if you can learn from you. Thank you, Clifford. Perfect time. Have you ever fished in North Carolina? No, I haven't, Rich. I've only fished in South Carolina. Lake Monticello is the only place I've fished. Okay, well, I got through all the comments. There's still 40 people watching. If you guys have more questions, just shoot them my way. I don't want to turn it. Still going to stream till 9:30 is kind of my goal here. So just keep shooting me questions, and I'll just kind of sit here and wait for your questions. Any plans to fish tournament fish after school? It's from Ride Red. Yes, definitely plan on fishing more tournaments after I get out of school. I get done with school in May, and I just need to get out. Fishing tournaments is tough on local tournaments and stuff because there's guys who spend every weekend, and they've spent every weekend on the lake for years. They just follow the fish. They fish every single weekend on the same lake all the time. And when you go put in 60 to $100 for a tournament and you're fishing against guys who maybe fish this to like 3-4 times a week even, it's just hard to stay on top of that and win. So that's why I liked college tournaments and junior tournaments, because a lot of times people would only fish for like one. They might only fish one time or two times before the tournament on that lake, or they'll fish a lake. They'll practice a couple days, but that's it. They don't fish it every week. Another thing I might do is I might try to do like the Bassmaster Weekend Series, things like that. People are less likely to jackpot those, even though they still do. Like BFL is just people jackpot them, all the locals and stuff, so it's just tough to fish. There's some federation clubs too that are good about that. So I might actually think about joining a federation club and try to make it up through the federation ranks. That'd be kind of fun. See if I can make the classic through the federation. I always thought about doing that. I think I probably have a decent shot. Who knows? You ever target stripers on Washita? I have. I do in the summertime or the fall in the summertime. I just take a giant like 5-inch swim bait. You can find them on your graph really easy that time of year. Just drop straight down and just 20 pounder, 20 pounder, 20 pounder. If you're on Lake Washita, Ryan, just go to the Blakely Creek area in the mouth of Blakely Creek and just graph out there in the middle. And there's striper like crazy out there. Single married. I'm single. No plans of getting married anytime soon. Got a lot of life to live ahead of me. Where'd you receive all of your knowledge, Johnny? Clifford said. Bassmaster magazine, Bassmaster TV shows, Bill Dance Outdoors, Larry Nixon, Best of Larry Nixon fishing shows, magazines, internet. Don't have anyone in my family that fishes. Nobody in my family did tournament bass fishing or anything like that. I have a few family members that fish, but they just fish for whatever species. Actually, my mom got me into fishing, which was awesome. She doesn't know really anything about fishing. My dad's been amazing, helping me, travel into tournaments, supports me, drives me, puts me in the lake every tournament I've fished. So really supportive parents. But yeah, I just taught myself. I just got the bug for fishing, and just literally just did it every single day. I would go in the backyard and I would cast for 2-3 hours a day in my backyard after school. I would watch fishing TV shows constantly. And once I got my own boat, I just taught myself. I never really had any like fishing mentor or fishing person who took me under their wing and taught me what they know. I've just kind of picked it up piecemeal, which has really, I think, helped me a lot because I had to figure it out all on my own. But I don't have like anybody who's like, hey, I'm a local. I fished this lake for 20 years. Here's the best spot on the lake. I have a couple friends on Lake Dardanelle who they did kind of, start sharing information with me, and I kind of know a lot of the good spots in Dardanelle now. But like other than that, I really don't have anyone who really taught me all I know, or anything like that. Let's see here. Will you be my AVTT partner? Justin, I'll be up in Fayetteville getting my MBA, and I don't know where I'm going to be after graduation, but if I'm in this area, shoot me an email. We can see. I definitely need someone to fish with. Sorry, someone had to do it. Thanks, Ryan. Let's see here. What do you mean jackpot? Jackpot is basically, so we have like a big tournament trail, and people will fish. Like it's like a $2,000, $3,000 entry fee, some of these tournaments, and a local guy will fish at the lake for like 6 months straight. They know exactly where the fish are. They'll have all the fish found, and then they'll just put in their $20 or $2,000, fish that one tournament, and then they'll win the tournament, take the prize, and go. And so I have a lot of friends like Lake Dardanelle. They do that all the time, and they'll just fish one tournament, and they'll just fish one BFL. They'll win the tournament, and then they fish all the tournaments on Lake Dardanelle, and they never go to any other lakes. That's fine. It's perfectly legal, perfectly fine to do. People make a lot of money doing that. I just don't want to lose my money to those guys. I just don't think I'm on the fish enough. Even if I can figure out how to catch 15 pounds, I mean, I could go put a respectable bag together on a lot of the lakes around here, but I can't go catch a tournament winning bag 20 pounds. That's just tough to do if you're not really on the fish. See here. Thoughts on fluoro or monoline? I've had a lot of breaks off with fluoro. Get some better quality fluoro. Mike Jeets P. I've had issues with fluoro, like the cheaper fluoro that's like $10-15 a spool. I break off a tongue with it. If you get like FC Sniper, Sunline, or the Seagar and Vizex, you're not going to have problems with it. People worry, I see, are you breaking fluoro at the knot, Kevin Altrice? A lot of people worry about the knots. I tie a Palomar knot 100% of the time. That's the only knot I tie. I tie a Palomar knot, that's it. I just make sure I wet the knot, and I make sure that when I cinch the knot down, the lines aren't crossed in the knot. You can watch a video on Wired to Fish. They have a really good video on how to tie a Palomar knot. But just wet the knot and make sure the lines aren't crossed in the knot, and you're going to be good for the Palomar. But try a little bit better quality fluoro. I've had a ton of issues with cheap fluoro over the years. Mono, I fish mono for all my crankbaits, shallow crankbaits, and all of my topwater baits. And I also fish it with a jerkbait sometimes. I don't like to fish it with jigs and stuff because when I'm fishing cleaner water, the fish might get line shy to it, so I like fluorocarbon for that. But if I'm fishing a shallow running crankbait, like a KBD 1.5, a little square bill, or a rattle trap, I'll fish like 15-pound monofilament, and it doesn't make a difference. I like mono for that kind of stuff. Also for spinnerbait, I like mono for a spinnerbait. See here. I noticed a lot of info you have to do is with ledges and drop-offs. Would you fish in the middle of the lake, or would you fish in the middle of a lake on flat bottom, or stick more to the creeks and close to spawning pockets? I would fish by the creek channels. Really, the big thing for me is even if it's when you're fishing a lake, anywhere you're fishing in the country, the depth changes or where the fish are going to be. If the depth changes from 2 feet of water to 5 feet of water, that could be a big depth change on some lakes. If the whole lake, the deepest depth in the lake is 15 feet, a depth change from 2 feet to 5 feet is huge. And the fish are going to sit there because they want to get from that shallow water to the deep water quick. If there's a cold front, if there's, in the summertime, they like to get to deep water if it's really hot. So most of the time, I just look for where those depth change happen quickly relative to the lake. Like on Lake Washita, a 2 to 5 foot depth change is nothing because it's 200 feet deep in some places. So in those lakes, I want to find a place where it drops from maybe 15 to 50 feet. But it's all relative to where you're fishing. But anywhere you can find depth changes by like creek channels or drop-offs, that's where the majority of your fish are going to be, and that's where you can find fish quicker. On those flat areas where there's no contour lines, you can catch fish, and sometimes you can find like the mother lode if you find a little like rock pile or something. But again, that's a depth change. You have a flat water, then you have a little bit of a depth change with like a rock pile. Fish are going to congregate to that depth change. So that's my mentality. That's how I find fish. I just look for those changes in depth. I've said it 15 times now, but that's what I do. See here. Tips when you graduate, Justin. I will write a note on that. Thank you. I think most people don't realize how hard they pull on knots. Clifford, yeah. Yeah, the knots are definitely, you need to watch when you're tying down knots for sure. Ryan, great stream. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. Kevin, Stren Fluoro is awesome. That's what I used. The Stren 100% fluorocarbon is good stuff. That's good stuff for sure. The mono is really good too. That's what I fished for years, Kevin. So looks like we're getting pretty much down to the end here. So I just want to thank you guys again for watching this stream, their 2-hour stream. I really, have a lot of fun making these. Hopefully that comes across. Hopefully I'm putting out good info for you guys. And again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments of the video when it gets posted to YouTube. If you have any, concerns or anything you think I can improve on, let me know in the comments. If you just want to, tell me I'm doing a great job, I also like that too. So either way, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for all the interaction in the chat. We had 45, 50 people watching it at all times, which is great. I think that we got to look at 4 Great Lakes today. And next week, hopefully like Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll put the stream on my channel like 2 days before it starts. Maybe a few more days in advance than that. But I'll put the stream up on my channel. You can see it. But I'm going to be doing 4 more lakes. I'm just going to pick them from my list that I get in my email. Keep sending lake suggestions to fishthemoment1@gmail.com if you want suggestions. And check out my social media, Fish the Moment on Instagram and @Fish the Moment on Facebook. I put content out there. I don't have very many Facebook subscribers or followers, so maybe check that out. It's actually, when you look up @Fish the Moment, the page is called Johnny Schultz Fishing, so check that out. And anyways, thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate you sticking with me to the end. 41 people up until the end. That's awesome. So thanks for watching the videos, and I'll see you next time.